Hello, I'm Joey Haskins, and welcome back to You've Never Seen, in which I showcase a movie you've probably never seen before. Next week is another milestone episode, and you know what that means. This week is another top 10 list, as we look at another 10 films I have never seen. And as I make these lists, I'm even shocked that there's still some big films I've yet to watch. But let's look at the list itself, starting with number 10, Friday the 13th. And when I mean Friday the 13th, I mean none of them. The story of the Voorhees family has long eluded me. I never really know where to start with these films, and since there are so many, I don't know if I could take all of them. And as I learned in research for next week's episode, I can't watch so many movies of the same thing at once. It's quite exhausting. I'm sure I'll watch them eventually, but it is only one of few horror franchises I've seen no movies for. Number 9. The Princess Diaries. In the filmography of Anne Hathaway, no film has really gained her the public notoriety quite like The Princess Diaries did. And hey, to go from Get Real to starring alongside Julie Andrews is an impressive step. It's also one of those Disney films that most children grew up on, but I never heard of until I was in my teens. And with news of a third film coming soon, I'll probably watch both films to prepare for it, even if the second one is as bad as everyone says it is. Number 8. All About Eve. I suppose that the fact that we talked about Bette Davis last week would only lead to me talking about the role that made her career, no matter how later in life it was. And of all the times Betty was close to winning her third Oscar, this is definitely the most controversial. As the year she was nominated, she tied with Gloria Swanson, who was trying to win her first Oscar for Sunset Boulevard. The reason it's controversial though is that because they tied, it didn't go to both of them, it went to the third choice, Judy Holliday for Born Yesterday. On top of that, it's a film lauded for its screenplay, performances, and introduction to a young up-and-coming actress named Marilyn Monroe. All About Eve is one that's on my list to watch. Number 7. Chinatown. If you remember in my previous list, I mentioned The Towering Inferno was the film I'm holding out on to see in theaters. Chinatown was also like that, despite the reputation of its director, who is a whole can of worms I don't want to open right now. Chinatown is lauded by many as a great neo-noir film. Along with a script written by renowned screenwriter Robert Towne and one of the best Jack Nicholson performances ever, this film is one that is greatly cited as one of the best films of all time. Number 6. Stand By Me. In a similar vein to Chinatown, I'm kinda holding out to read the book on this one. Stephen King is a writer who greatly interests me. I've only read 3 of his books, but my father has been a big fan of his for years. Stand By Me, though, is a film that has some of the earliest roles of Will Wheaton, Corey Feldman, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell, and Kiefer Sutherland. For an important film that made so many careers, I do want to watch it, but I don't mind waiting it out a bit. Number 5. Nightmare on Elm Street. Another horror franchise I've seen no films for, Freddy Krueger's Crusades into People's Minds is a series that I'm more interested in than Friday the 13th, only because I have this strange feeling that the series will make a comeback soon. I mean, considering we've had revisits to the Halloween, Saw, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Scream franchises recently, I feel like one for both Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th is a little overdue. Maybe something like Prey or Prometheus that reinvents the franchise in a new way would work. Then I'd have some incentive to watch one of the films in this franchise. Number 4. Interstellar. What many have called Christopher Nolan's best film, I'm a little worried to watch. Nolan is the kind of director who likes to show off what he can do, and my impression of the footage of Interstellar that I've seen is that he might show off a little too much. And I don't know if his step into sci-fi will have him show off, or if it will show his lack of enthusiasm for this genre. Maybe I'm wrong, but who knows? Many have said that it's good and worth the watch, but maybe it's another film that might be good to hold off to watch in theaters. We'll see what happens, though. Number 3. The Before Trilogy. A friend of mine in college had always praised these films as long as I've known him. I never heard of them before that time, but since then, many have called these films some of the best ever made. It's certainly an impressive trilogy that focuses on the love between two people that spans over 20 years. There's a Criterion collection of the trilogy, and I'm planning on getting it, so I'll watch it then. Number 2. A Christmas Story. Probably one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic Christmas film of all time, had been one that many have told me is great, but I've never watched. During the holidays, I have this tradition of watching a certain amount of movies on Christmas time. My family always watched Christmas Vacation on that day. Heck, we still do. But Christmas Story is a film that, although I've seen many scenes from and know many quotes, I can't imagine watching this Christmas or anytime soon. Number 1, Godzilla. Ironic, isn't it, that just a few weeks ago I did a Godzilla film, yet I have never seen the original one that started it all. I know much of the film, including its themes and content, but I'm curious to see what I think once I watch it, which might be sometime soon. I do own 2 separate copies of the film, and that'd give me some incentive to watch it. Admittedly, the only films from the previous list that I have seen now are Rear Window and Spartacus. And with a new remaster of Godzilla coming this month, it may be sooner rather than later. How's that for some films I've never seen? Some controversial picks, I'd say. But the controversy doesn't stop here. Next week you'll be getting a ton of them as we take on the films of a particular franchise. Join me next week as we look at the amazing, the spectacular, the sad, and exhausting world of the Wedhead. With Weston Media Center, I'm Joey Haskins, and I'll see you all next time.